come into the newsroom. We're going to kick things off by talking about our top story. It's one of the stories that's certainly captivating, if not the country right now. All outside borders are also intense interest with the very latest on the disappearance of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie. And just to fill everybody in case you are not up to date with what's been going on, a lot of developments have been happening. As we show you the video that was released yesterday from the FBI, this is the person that they are trying to contact to find out if he has information to what degree that will help them, the investigators, find Nancy Guthrie. Now, this was released yesterday. As you can see, it's a man that was caught on camera, authorities say, from the home's Nest Cam. And as you can see, he was wearing, we can show it again, Kendra, he was wearing a mask. You look at his waistband because authorities say, the FBI is saying that he is armed. They didn't elaborate on what exactly is in that waist. But again, that's what's going on there. Mask, he's got gloves on. At one point goes back to the front, just near that archway, to grab a bush or some sort of shrubbery or something, then returns back to the camera. We want to break this down now with our retired NYPD Lieutenant Commander, Ralph Cilento, who's standing by to join us on Zoom. And Ralph, thank you so much. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay, Ralph. So look, we're just going to break this down. So we now know just in all of the developments that happened. The video was released yesterday. Hours later, information then breaks that authorities in the Tucson area had found someone at a traffic stop about 60 miles south of Tucson, near Rio River, that part of the state. Then we learned this morning that that individual had been released. And so right now it is our understanding from authorities that they are still looking for someone in this particular case. Thank you, Kendra and Miss Alex over there. Is this, Ralph, we're just going to go right in. Is this how big of a setback is this? Or do you even see that as such in this case?
Well, it's less of a setback than it is housekeeping. I mean, of course, we want to break in the case, but we don't want to break in the case if it's the wrong person. So what happens is when these photos are released, which I'm in full support of, I think it's excellent. Get it out as far and as wide in the media as you can. So when these photos are released, this is going to produce, I mean, literally thousands of tips that are going to come in. And all of these tips have to be dealt with in some way. Each tip has to be vetted. And so whoever this person was, they brought them in, they questioned them, and they had to release them. You either have cause to hold somebody or you don't. So as much as it is as a setback, I agree. But really, it's a matter of housekeeping. Thousands of tips come in. They have to be dealt with. Each one has to be vetted. And if it's not the right person, it's not the right person.
Ralph, let me ask you about this. Releasing videos and things like this, we know the pros, as you just mentioned, about getting the information out there, leading to tips. Can you just talk about, from your perspective, retired Lieutenant Commander with the NYPD, what are some of the cons involved with releasing images like this? One of the concerns about that came up is about possibly tipping someone off.
Right. Well, there is a lot of, there's a lot of goofy people out there. Some people want to try to get their hands on the reward. Sometimes people just want to be involved in something. So the cons are you get a lot of false flags, and it takes literally hundreds of hours of horsepower of detectives in order to vet out all of these leads. So many of them are dead ends. So many people are trying to settle scores with their enemies just by getting the police to go to their door. I mean, it really is a nuisance. Some people are just mistaken and they think they're doing the right thing and they think they really have a tip and they don't. Either way, the good stuff, the people who are legitimately mistaken, and the kooks that are out there, they all produce tips and they all have to be dealt with. And that takes hundreds of hours of manpower to do that.
Ralph, let me ask you this. Now, also breaking today, TMZ says that they received another ransom note from the supposed persons, possibly, asking for 1 Bitcoin in exchange for information. And TMZ, from our understanding, says that they turned this information over, this note, alleged note, over to the authorities, the FBI and Pima County investigators there. But again, this note coming in, how do you interpret that? Is this just another lead? Is this perhaps the coup that you just described?
Well, what I think is that two parallel investigations have to occur at the same time. You need a massive amount of manpower to really dive deep into these Bitcoin accounts, into these notes. At the same time, you need to have a massive amount of horsepower, detective manpower, into trying to find Miss Guthrie. One cannot be sacrificed in order to achieve the other. And we have manpower. We have the sheriff's office, local police departments. The FBI has nearly limitless resources and manpower. And so both things have to occur at the same time. There's a lot of talk, and I can't say I disagree, that these ransom notes may be red herrings. They may be a complete distraction. So we have to look into the Bitcoin accounts. We have to look into the notes that come in. At the same time, we cannot take our foot off the gas about searching. And as you're aware now, a bunch of investigators are hitting the side of a highway, a hills area in Tucson, maybe off a piece of information they got from the tip line.
Hmm.
But a bunch of them just set out to search the side of these hills in Tucson, maybe looking for something that was discarded from a car, maybe a cell phone, but they weren't there yesterday, which means I'm thinking that all of these tips that are coming in directed them to that area.
And I spent 4 years in Phoenix, so which is about an hour and a half or so north of that. But the landscape that you're describing is very, very. It's tough. It's difficult. It's hills. It's dry. You know, it's a lot of shrubbery that's going on. Going back
Right.
to the question about the emails coming from someone who may or may not have information, can we talk about the communication that's going on? Because from all the information that we are receiving, there has been little, if any, communication from the alleged kidnappers with the Guthrie family. You know, how odd is this, just from your perspective?
It's very odd because this is unusual. The way this kidnapping is playing out. If it is indeed a kidnapping, we think it is, but very little communication. Where you have Miss Savannah reaching out with, Instagram
Instagram,
posts, and
exactly.
right, and you would think that a kidnapper, a legitimate kidnapper, as we've discussed, kidnapping only happens for two reasons: it's for revenge or profit. So you would think that if somebody was kidnapping Miss Guthrie for profit, that they would want to keep it quiet, contact the family, get paid with little or no media. That is the goal. And that is not the goal you achieve by emailing or sending messages to TMZ, which that is the complete antithesis of that. So this is an unusual case in several levels. They seem to be not contacting the Guthrie family directly, but then the Guthrie family is forced to reach out on social media. The entire thing is very odd and very atypical of the kidnappings that I worked.
I'm going to do something right now. Kendra, if you would, Kendra is our operator here. Kendra, bring up the video, the black and white images of that. And you've seen them. I don't know if you have the monitor there, but just what do you make of the body language, Ralph, of this? He's fumbling, the gloves. Just how did you interpret what you were looking at when you reviewed the video, one of the 100 times I imagine you looked at it?
Okay, well, there's two things at play here also. One is we don't have Miss Guthrie yet. So whatever he did is working. On the other hand, this is extraordinarily amateur hour when you look at it, right? He's got one of the things I haven't heard anybody talk about is that he has this holster in some odd position in the front of his pants in his crotch area. But then to me, it looks like a holster that's designed for a revolver, but based on the video, it looks like this semi-automatic in that holster. So I don't think the holster, the firearm, if it is a legitimate firearm, I don't even think the firearm is meant for that holster or vice versa. So the holster looks like it's made for a revolver, and it looks like a semi-automatic that's in the holster. Also, the placement of the holster is very, very weird. The
Very
way he
weird.
doesn't, yes, the way he doesn't come prepared to deal with the Ring camera. I mean, if you're gonna try to disable a doorbell camera, just hit it with a hammer. He doesn't seem to have any tools on him. He pulls a piece of the bush in order to cover up the camera. Then he's walking around. Doesn't seem to be afraid to get caught on camera. Yet he's completely covered up. It's also extraordinarily unusual that his backpack is full, right? I mean, there's so many scenarios here. Let's assume that Miss Guthrie interrupted a burglary. Well, if you're going to do a burglary, why is your backpack full? You
Hmm.
go in and do a burglary with an empty backpack so you could put stuff in it. So I'm only left to believe, of course, we're speculating here, that the things in that backpack were going to be used to restrain Miss Guthrie, or maybe there's a plastic bag in there. We don't really know, but it's odd that you would approach a house with a full backpack instead of an empty one.
Ralph, another thing too, Kendra, just bring the video up. What did you notice anything in the front pocket? There's been discussions like something that maybe looked like a phone or something in that top pocket. Did you anything in the clothing catch your eye or speak to you from your detective perspective?
Well, just by looking at the clothing, I can't speak to the front pocket because I didn't examine the video and see that.
Got it.
But just by looking at his clothing, it's deliberate, right? So he's not undomiciled, he's not homeless, right? He has clothes on, he has a backpack, he has shoes on. He bought those gloves from somewhere. You and I were talking about whether or not they were surgical gloves. I do not believe that now. I think there's some kind of landscaper gloves after taking a better look at the video
Hmm.
where they're insulated in some way, like padded, maybe like housekeeping gloves or masonry gloves or anything that you would wear that has padding inside of rubber. You and I were discussing it, but they look a little thicker to me now, not like surgical gloves. So, he has a backpack on, he has pants on, shoes. So he looks deliberate in the way he's dressed. He obviously took some time to put a mask over his head. So, this person lives somewhere. Yeah, somebody knows him.
And the other thing I wanted to ask you about in regards to the video, as we're talking about that, the mask, and is there possibilities of any trace DNA? Can you talk a little bit about, that whether there's anything, and we know that forensic investigators have gone over that home in Tucson with a fine tooth comb 2 or 3 times. You even mentioned in earlier discussions as we've been covering this, which is now in day 11, how the fact that they went back, they came back, they left, they came back. All of this has been unfolding since then. But is there a possibility for any DNA to have been retrieved just from what we're seeing in this exchange at the front door, what we believe is the front door?
Yes, there could be. There could be spittle. We're assuming that he had his gloves on the whole time. We don't know that. Uh, the in my opinion, I think the crime scene was released way too early, and then they had to reestablish the crime scene. You had an 80-something-year-old victim. You had a cooperative family. There was no reason to release that crime scene. I'm not there investigating it, but it appeared to me that was way too soon to release the crime scene. I think that was an error. But either way, you can always remember Locard's exchange principle in crime scenes. Every time you enter a crime scene, every time you enter a location, you either bring something with you or you take
Take
something
something out.
out. Okay. And so when this guy walked in there, you could have a footprint, you could have spittle that came out of his mouth.
Sweat.
He could have wiped his brow and have sweat. He could have taken his ski mask off in front of the house and you get DNA there. Maybe a hair dropped out of his beard. We think looking at the camera footage that he has a mustache and a beard. So I mean, yes, anything's possible. You're telling me that it's common knowledge that they process the scene 2 or 3 times. Do it again. Do it again. And then when you're done, do it again. And then when you're done, do it again after that. Okay. So you're always looking for forensic evidence. People bring things into the crime scene and they take them out.
Ralph, let me ask you this. Bitcoin, why did that seem odd, or is that atypical of where a situation similar to this, if it's unfolding, goes? But Bitcoin, why Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, Bitcoin is difficult to trace. So just the anonymity of the accounts. Now, at the same time, I say it's difficult to trace. There are people say that it is traceable. Bitcoin counts are traceable on the back end, but suffice it to say, it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult to trace Bitcoin stuff. It's possible, but not easy. And so the very anonymity of that type of cryptocurrency makes it attractive for all kinds of nefarious activity. Uh, banned images, forbidden pornography, stolen, compensation for stolen items.
Hmm.
And so Bitcoin becomes very popular for people that live, in the shadows. Bitcoin is also used for a lot of legitimate transactions, but because it's so difficult to trace those transactions, it becomes the preferred currency of, ne'er do wells.
Let me ask you this. We know now that the Arizona Department of DPS, Department of Safety, has also gotten involved. We talk about a multi-agency law enforcement agency effort to try to find 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie. Could this include any way of is it more than just what's involved with that? Is it keeping an eye on intersections? Are you just walk us through when it expands to this degree?
Okay, well, there are investigators. There are people working on the Bitcoin accounts. There are people working on the email, the communications to TMZ. There are people working on all kinds of things. Now, when Arizona DPS gets involved, there is also work that needs to be done just with good old fashioned shoe leather and knocking on doors. Bodies, bodies, bodies. You always need more bodies. Get out there. If you get a tip, you can grid search an area, which is what I think they're doing on the side of the highway now. I don't know this to be true, but it seems logical that after putting these photos out, they got thousands of tips. Now they're directed to this part of the highway, the bottom of these hills. So, yes, you always need bodies because you have to be multifaceted. You cannot put all your eggs in one basket. So, Arizona DPS is involved. They don't have to be investigators. All they have to do is care a little bit. You have to care. If you care about what you're doing, you're going to get out there and you do a good grid search and legitimately look for clues or anything that could be left behind.
Ralph, I also want to bring up another point because as authorities have not identified a person of interest or named a suspect, another point that has previously come up, again, that needs to be pointed out, everyone is a suspect until they are not, correct?
Everyone is a suspect until they're not a suspect. So I have no doubt, and I 100% agree, by the way, with uh any pressure from the FBI for people to take lie detector tests. Personally, we know that lie detector results are not
Admissible in
admissible in
court.
court, but it is a very useful tool. Anybody who's a polygrapher will tell you it's a very useful tool to get a handle on who you're dealing with. So yes, if I was Savannah Guthrie, I would say right on Instagram. Guess what, everyone from my family is going to be polygraphed, and you need to move on. You need to have a roving cell phone subpoena so that you can understand who's talking to who and at what time. Okay, and where you don't have evidence, you create evidence. When I say you create evidence, you don't have anything right now. More video canvases, more door knocking. Get somebody who saw something. You don't have any evidence, you create evidence. You surveil somebody, knock on doors, get more doorbell ring cameras, get more surveillance cameras. I'm sure somewhere in that data of Miss Guthrie's doorbell footage, they can in the metadata they could probably zero in on what time that is. Once you have a time, now you can go out into the community and look at businesses, highways, traffic cameras. At this time, was anybody seen coming and going, even off of her block? So you start with the victim and you make concentric circles out. You make concentric circles out, and the perpetrator is going to be in there somewhere.
Ralph, we also know that again, the images were released by the FBI yesterday, which was day 10 of this. And we also know that all the investigators involved in this have been working tirelessly around the clock. But can you just talk
Right.
about the timing of it coming out, and what impact it could have had this been, 2 days ago, a week ago or so. But again, also, we need to let everyone know that there were difficulties in getting
Right.
these images because that camera, authorities say, had been taken down. But certainly we have to talk about the timing of this and the timeliness of this.
Well, first of all, to your watchers and listeners, I have to tell you that it's not as easy as just grabbing the video footage. That's not really video footage. What it is a bunch of data. It's a bunch of zeros and ones that communicate with the internet. The internet, the server then communicates with Google, and Google stores it. And so Google has to sort of put this together. And considering what they came up with, and the vast amount of stuff that's up there on the web, I actually think they did a good job. It wasn't that long. It could have taken longer. So, it's not as simple as serving a subpoena and give me the video footage. There was no video footage. It's a bunch of zeros and ones that have to be searched and then reconstructed. And Google has to get involved with that. It's actually quite complex. And I think they did a pretty good job with it. Now, to answer your first question about would it have made a difference if the video had come out sooner? Of course, the easy answer to that is yes. However, it's not like the footage came out 6 months from now
Right.
where everyone's memory is bad. It was a few days. And in a few days, number one, the victim's life is at risk. So if she needs critical medication, a few days is not great. The other thing is, um, it's good. It all it does is allow the would-be perpetrator to get far enough away. How far can you travel in one day versus 2 days versus 7 days, right? So yes, it allows the perpetrator more time to escape if that's what the goal is, and it's. But getting it out into the public is a great idea. I think they did a great job with it. The two downsides to the delay is that it allows the perpetrator to get further away. And also, obviously, this goes without saying, it's not great for the victim, who's an elderly person and probably needs medical care.